Welcome everyone to KHM Today, your weekly go-to resource for industry news and straight up fun. I'm your host, Carolyn Orff, and today is August 11th. It is the day before school starts for my kiddos. There's some excitement, there's some nervousness, but you guys, I am so excited to have kids back in school, going to sporting events, going to dances, doing homework even. So I'm so hopeful for such a great start to the school year. So I hope you guys are getting into that mode as well. So support and motivation are the name of the game this month at KHM. Today, as we go back to school, and today we welcome Matt Walgren, where we're going to talk about customer service. We have Sean Tubman from Regent 7 Seas to shine a beautiful light on the ultra luxury product. We have fun with KHM at home. Wait till you guys see the beautiful and delicious disaster that I made. And we have more of our best training series where we're focused on Europe. And we're going to end the show with some health and wellness tips with our friend David Pritchard from ALG, because we all need that right now. So let's get started. Please help me welcome Matt Walgren from the education team here at KHM Travel Group. Matt, it's so good to see you. My slide going to change today. There we go. So providing great customer service is a way that we get to set ourselves apart from other booking sources. And we should say that this segment is sponsored by American Airlines Vacations, a fantastic resource for pre and post cruise stays and a perfect way to offer clients a well-rounded vacation experience. Matt, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good.
Hanging in there?
I'm hanging in there.
So you are here to give us some tips on how we can go above and beyond for our clients, as we are kind of still in this period where travel isn't necessarily easy or as easy as we feel like it used to be.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Last year we faced issues, but this year we're facing issues, but they're much different than last year. We're dealing with, passport delays, different service levels at hotels as they ramp up and open up again. It's just a different set of challenges. And so it's causing some disappointment with some clients. They go back, maybe even they go back to the same hotel that they've stayed in every year, and it's just not the same. Or maybe the prices have changed. They booked last minute and it's much more expensive. So I feel like we're encountering with some clients a little bit more disappointment. And so I think one of the things that we can do when they express that to us is just to empathize, get on the phone, understand. Now, we're inside and out this industry, so we know everything, but we got to remember our clients don't do this every day. They don't understand the different issues, how things might be different. And so even if we understand that and we may not agree with our clients or their complaints, we can still empathize with them. If we were in their shoes, we'd probably feel the same way. It's not what we expected when we were traveling again. We thought it would be the same. So I think you need to let them know that you're on their side and you're gonna help them and do what you can. A couple things is, if there is an issue and it's a good one, the first thing they can do is, contact the hotel directly. They're there at the resort, see if they can figure it out while they're there, because that's going to be a much quicker, results than, say, you getting on the phone and trying to contact somebody and waiting on hold and them contacting, the hotel. So try that first. Another one, I think, Bill was talking about this last week. Just check into the room. If you got to give them the credit card to check into the room, if that's an issue with check-in, give them the credit card. We'll work it out on the back end, the finances and stuff, but get in your room. Or, if that's not a possibility, go to the bar and have a drink or something,
Right.
Don't just sit there in the lobby, for 10 hours. Get your vacation started. And if they can't help you right there and the agent has to do something behind the scenes, we can do that. But don't let that stall your vacation.
Yeah, and Matt, I think that's such a good point, is that resolutions don't happen in 30 seconds. They don't always happen within an hour. So giving your client the okay to go enjoy yourself, go get your bathing suit on, go enjoy. I'm going to work this from the back end. And hopefully in a few hours we have a resolution. But if we don't, for some reason, at least you've started that vacation. We will get something figured out for you.
Right.
Okay, so the other thing that I want to get your opinion on is, as the client is describing, it's, you said it, you want to empathize but not necessarily agree. How do you do that delicately while not getting on their bandwagon and, oh my gosh, I can't believe that happened, and oh, I'm going to get this fixed for you and you shouldn't have to pay for that, and how do you temper yourself back?
Well, I think you definitely don't want to promise anything. I think it's okay to get on their bandwagon a little bit. I mean, you don't want to drive it down. It depends on what the issue is. Sometimes it's really not an issue, and you can kind of smooth it over if it's one of those scenarios to say, oh yeah, I was there, before, and that's kind of how it is in Hawaii. They have, little lizards crawling on the walls and stuff. That's an example I like to use. And when I first saw them, it freaked me out a little bit too. But that's Hawaii. That's what it's like. You're kind of in a jungle, and so you can kind of do that so they know that this is really something that's normal. It's not something out of the ordinary. This is just the way it is always, if
Yeah,
that's that kind of issue. But if it is a true issue, then you can, yeah, oh Jesus, well let me look into that. That seems odd, and you
yeah.
can agree with them. That kind of disarms them a little bit when you agree with them. I feel like so do that. I like to say with the Hawaii one, it's kind of funny. I've had some friends who have come from Hawaii and they never been here before, and they were surprised by all the squirrels because they don't have squirrels. And they were freaked out. What are these things in the trees? What's going on here? They're like, oh, those are just squirrels. They're fine. They're not going to harm you. They're afraid of you. So it's just a matter of understanding the culture and the environmental differences, if it's that sort of thing. Does that answer what you were trying to get at?
Does, and it's so funny because I recently had someone who had called me, and there were several issues, and many of them were absolutely valid. I mean, absolutely valid. But then she got to the one where it was, well, when we checked in, we didn't realize we were at a party resort. And I said, well, what do you mean? And she said, well, the people in front of us got out of the van and they were hooting and hollering and woohoo and all this. She goes, and we just didn't think we were, at a place like that. And I said, well, this is a family resort. And I said, I got to be honest with you. I said, no one has control as to who checks in on any given day. And I
Right.
said that, and I said, and she actually stopped and she said, well, you know what? You're right about that one. So
Yeah.
I think she even caught herself kind of going to those extremes as to what was not right. So what can an agent do to assist in the situation? The first thing you'd said was, see if the client can speak to someone on site. But if that is proving to not be working, what can we do on our end?
Yeah. Also let them know that you're going to talk to folks on your end as well. Typically most suppliers that we use at KHM have a sort of, what do you call it? Like a during
During
travel
travel.
call
Yep.
number, right? And call them and see if they can help. Uh, that's what they're there for, and they'll contact the hotel and try and work their connections. That's where your clout kind of comes in, is using some of that because they do tons of business with our suppliers, and so they want to make it right. So I would try that is one thing. Again, don't promise anything. You might reach out to the hotel directly as well if you have a contact there. I've been successful at reaching out to managers if I knew someone there or even a BDM. But don't discount that during travel number,
Mhm.
which a
Well,
lot
and
of people
that's a
forget
really
about.
good place. Even if you do know someone on site or BDM, it's still, I think, important. And again, I recently learned this to go that route as well, because there is a paper trail of dissatisfaction. So you're
Right.
trying to work all angles. And as someone recently reminded me, and I always knew this, but the DMC that is associated is more than just a transfer company. They're more than just trying to sell you tours. They're actually there to make sure that if there are any problems on the ground, that they can help solve them, whether they're medical or dissatisfaction or whatever. So I think sometimes we don't know the full capacity of what those folks do in destination.
Right. Yeah, use all your resources on hand.
Yep, use all of them. So Matt, at the end of the day, if we can't solve the problem, as an
Yeah.
agent, and we've done our best. How do we move past that?
This one's always been tough for me. I always want to provide great service. I want to be helpful. And when things just don't go right, whether it's my fault or not, I feel really bad. So I've got to figure out a way to work through that. And for me, some of the things I've done, I try to stick to, it's easy to go and eat something yummy. And I'm not saying don't do that if you really want to, but maybe think of something that's positive and healthy and good for you. For me, it was going for walks. I'd go for a long walk, even if it was an hour long, just to clear my head, stop the chatter and the sort of repeating what happened in my head over and over again that I tend to do when there's a difficult situation. I also found during COVID, during all the cancellations and frustrations with that, that I could really lift some weights, heavier weights than I thought I could when I was angry. So I started doing that. I got some good weights. And you know what? Once you kind of get through that, maybe call up one of your fellow travel agents that you become buddies with and just have a venting session. Not that you want to belabor it or vent for too long, but just to kind of get it out. It's good to talk to someone who understands. And I think, another agent would understand what you're going through, and you guys can just vent a little bit together. It's a little bit cathartic. So I've done that as well. And then at the end, maybe in a day or two, when you've kind of calmed down, I would take it to heart. Break down what happened. Is there anything you could have done? Even if it wasn't your fault, the issue at hand, is there anything you could have done differently to prevent it? If it's a matter of, the reservation, they couldn't find the reservation. Could you have contacted the hotel beforehand to make sure everything was there? Maybe even get, we work with third-party suppliers, right? And so we don't get that hotel confirmation number. We get the ALG confirmation number, right? Maybe when you're on the phone confirming everything, get the hotel's confirmation number that they have on hand, just in case. So you can put that up. Get it in writing if you can, if you have a contact who can confirm it. I think that's a preventative measure. Another one is maybe you didn't set the expectations right with the client. They'd never been there before. You're an expert in this destination. You know it in and out, but you kind of forget what it's like for a new person going somewhere. Could you have done something to set the expectations better with the client on what the experience is going to be like, since they're from Colorado and they've never been to Costa Rica before, for example?
Those are great words of advice, and it's all about reflection, not beating yourself up. What's done is done.
Right.
How can you learn from it? So great words of advice. So you're basically saying that last week after National Chocolate Chip Cookie Day, I shouldn't have had the half dozen cookies that I had, right?
I'm not going to say that.
All right. Thank you, Matt, so much. We're going to see you back here in just a little bit for the best training series.
All right. See you in a minute.
All right, you guys, such wise words. And David Pritchard from ALG Health and Wellness is going to be here in just a little bit as well to talk to us about some of those things that we can do to better service our minds and our bodies. So I'm super excited to welcome our next guest to KHM today for the first time. He is Senior Vice President of Sales for the ultra luxury brand Regent 7 Seas. He has a 30-year background with cruise lines, but also with travel agencies. So please welcome Sean Tubman. Hi, Sean.
Hey, Carolyn. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be with everybody.
Yeah. So one of the best parts of being the host of this show is that when guests come on, I try and do my research ahead of time and, dig into the suppliers. The website for Regent 7 Seas, I could get lost for hours. I mean, the pictures are stunning. I was salivating at the food pictures. Just everything is so beautiful and luxurious. It's such a special brand.
It is really engaging, and that's what it's all about. We're all selling dreams, right? And in the ultra luxury space, it's about exceeding expectations. And so we're really always telling a story, and this is what our guests really want to know. We have our inclusive type product, which, as you know, includes just about everything under the sun. And of course, the price point's higher up front, sometimes, and people are like, oh, I don't know about that. But then when they see the true value proposition and what you're getting for that money and how that compares to river or premium luxury suites or suites on those ships, it really tells the story. And they do the math for themselves, and they end up saying, wow, this is a great investment. Like, I can really step up for not much more money at all and have it all included. The site really reinforces that for us.
So one of the things that I love was right on the homepage, there's a quote that says, "Our past informs, our future inspires." And when I read that, I thought it perfectly fit what the last year and a half has been about. So how do you look at the last year and how it relates to how Regent sees the future?
Well, it was awful. I can tell you, everybody knows that, right? I think, we're also just excited to get out of this tunnel that we've been in for so long. But when we look at it, if you go back prior to the pandemic, the luxury space has been really, really hot for a long time here. We at Regent, once we introduced this all-inclusive product, we have set booking records every year for the last 5, 6, 7 years in a row. Every year would be a record year. So prior to the pandemic, we were in the best book position we'd ever been in. And it wasn't just Regent, it was Oceania, our sister company, and Norwegian Cruise Line, our other sister company. So as a whole, all three lines were in the best book position. Then this hits. And of course, you have to do what you got to do. We all had to scramble and support ourselves and get through it. What has been really reassuring is that although we took on a lot of debt, we borrowed a lot of money and we issued a lot more shares than we would have liked to, but the financial community was behind us. They believe in the cruise industry. They've seen the performance over the last 20, 30, 40 years. And so they backed us. And I'm happy to say now, things are now, we're just like NCL just got their ships up and running. And so that's the first real revenue coming in how long? It's been a year and a half pretty much. So we start in September. We couldn't be more excited about that. Currently, I guess if there was any silver lining, it's the fact that, our kind of clientele, they kind of feel cheated over this last year and a half. When you're 70, 75, how many real good travel years do you have? 15, 20. And I just lost two of these years, right? I am going to book with a vengeance, and that's what we're seeing. They're booking not just once a year, but twice a year. Instead of booking a 12-day, they're booking a 34-night, cruise. That's why you see, such demand for the longer cruises. So we are now in the best book position by far versus pre-pandemic that we've ever been in. So already for 2022, we're 60% full for the whole year. Now, that other 40% you still have to fill. It's the hardest 40% to fill, right? But when you look at first quarter 23, we're over 50% full already for that. And again, the World Cruise drives a lot of that in the first quarter always, and they're really selling well. So that helps. But you can see the kind of demand. People are booking with a vengeance for us at this point. So it's a huge opportunity. And your team is really doing well. You're way ahead for 22. You're over, I don't know, I think you're 250% of what you had back to 2019 when you're comparing to a full regular year of 2019. So
I have to laugh because it's 75, 76. They're feeling like they lost a year and a half. When I watch a 17-year-old run out the door to start the first day of school, I'm saying, whoa, what's going on here? It's a sentiment across the board. Everyone feels that. I never thought in a million years I'd have a kid racing out the door to get to school on time. What was that about? Let's talk about what that first day of sailing looks like, you guys. I believe it's September 11th. What sort of things have you been doing to prepare?
Well, I'll tell you, it is. There's been some choppy seas getting to this. just because of the changes with the protocols in the countries that we're visiting. And so the September 11th is round trip to Southampton, British Isles, and of course they had the Amber situation in the UK. So here, we've been ready for a long time. Our onboard product team is ready. We've got all our protocols in place. I think one of the other silver linings to this is that I really believe that you won't see the kind of influenza outbreaks on ships that we did in the past. Putting aside the pandemic, just regular flu, we are so much more prepared for any kind of outbreak on our ships or, the whole cruise industry that I don't think we'll see a lot of that going on. But so we're prepared. Then all of a sudden, the Amber Alert, we're getting closer and closer, to September 11th, and we have to make some decisions. So we actually made decisions about 2 weeks ago to change the itinerary to a Western European itinerary, because you can't have people, if they were going in to the UK, had to quarantine for 10 days, and that's not going to work when you're getting on a ship.
Right.
So we made the changes. We just couldn't wait really any longer to be prudent and give our guests the most time to make a decision. And then 2 days later, UK lifts the ban. So we're back to the the round trip Southampton. All the guests are very happy. Most of them are like, I really don't care where we go. I just want to go. All right. But they're very happy we're back to the round trip. So it's just a little bit start and stop, but it's all coming together.
And based on the size of the ships and the number of passengers, I mean, I was reading the website and I just thought it was so fascinating that the number 750 was the magic number. And so you've got more space to deal with. So really, at the end of the day, when it comes to social distancing, you don't have to make a lot of adjustments in that area.
No, not really. We love that sort of capacity because the ships are large enough to have all the facilities and all the specialty dining. They're small enough to be intimate. So we like that size of the ship and having only 750 guests. The suites are the largest at sea. The public rooms are the most spacious at sea. The ship itself has the highest space ratio at sea. So you've got plenty of space, personal space, whether you're in your suite or you want to spend more time in there or around the ship. We'll probably start off with about 80% capacity on the first month or two of sailings, and then quickly ramp up to 100%, because we're requiring 100% vaccination throughout our fleet, both crew and guests. So we really think the onboard environment is going to be very similar to how it was pre-pandemic. The masking issue is sort of one that we didn't, you have to adhere to the countries you're going into, obviously, also. But we really didn't think we'd have to really have to address that issue as much on board. But all of a sudden with the Delta variant, it may affect it a little bit. But just the same as going into a restaurant, in the States. So, but it's just we think it's a fantastic way to take the cruise and experience everywhere we go. And the same with our excursions. We really think we'll be able to manage our excursions the way we used to. And a lot of our guests like to just get off the ship and do their own thing. They've been to Rome 18 times. They want to do something different, right? They want to do it on their own. They know where they want to go. We offer Go Local tours, which is you can just tour around the city as a local. And a lot of our guests like to do that. So we don't think we're going to, have sanctioned tours that you have to be on as part of the line, just because of our mission. So.
Awesome. So let's talk a little bit about, when we had our pre-show call, we talked about the world cruise, because I've just been fascinated by this across the board. Any world cruise is selling out in hours, but you guys have seen that not only with the world cruise, but you are releasing more and more itineraries and dates further out because the demand is there.
Yeah, our we pushed the booking window out a few years ago. We just kept getting requests from our past guests to be able to book further out, and so now we're launching our new season on August 18th, coming up next week, and that runs from March of 23 through May of 24. So you can see how far out that booking window is, and it'll book right away. So again, there's big opportunities for your advisors, you know, and season launches are really a big opportunity because our guests want to book right away. Then there are the World Cruises is a phenomenon. You know, it's not just Regent, it's a lot of cruise lines that are doing it. And I think some of that is that pent-up demand that we've been talking about, that people are like, you know what, I'm going to take that world cruise finally. I've been talking about it for a long time. I'm going to do it. So last year, we sold our 2023 world cruise out. It took us about a day, maybe a day and a half to sell it out, the full ship. We've never in our history sold a full ship for the full 134 days. Usually we'd sell half of it for the full cruise and then the other half in segments of 2 or 3 weeks. We sold the whole ship out in a day and a half.
I hope those folks end up liking each other because they're stuck with each other the whole time. There's no new faces coming in.
Yeah, exactly right. It is going to be interesting. 2024, we just did the World Cruise launch last month, and it sold out in 3 hours. The full cruise. Again, it's mind-boggling, you know, the numbers on this stuff, and our 93-day grand voyages where we go around the world. It's not quite around the world, but these are long cruises. They sell really quickly on this. So there is like, if you're an advisor, don't think that you're being too aggressive to talk to people about doing these kind of cruises because they are looking for this stuff. So. You know, we have a fantastic business development manager, Jody Murphy, who's dedicated to your account, and she is a real pro, and she knows how to develop business. So she'll help any of you that want to really, you know, start getting into this market. It's not that hard. It seems hard. It's kind of intimidating, but it really isn't. You know, these clientele are the nicest people in the world. Yes, they're affluent. Yes, yes, they expect a lot, but we provide a lot. So it's not like they're being difficult at all. They're very easy to work with, and the return is just incredible. Jody just told me before the call that one of your agents booked the 24 world cruise, the full cruise, $167,000 cruise. And the commission on that was $21,500.
Oh my goodness.
So, wow, you know, it's there to be made. And somebody else booked a 23 world cruise a while ago for roughly the same, $169,000, and it was $22,000 commission. So there's a lot of money to be made.
It's doable. Oh, that's wonderful. Oh,
and
Sean,
we can show them. We can show them how to do it, you know, how to compare us to premium lines, and just let those prospects do the math, and they'll sell themselves, and they'll thank you for it. So things are good. Things are exciting.
Letting people know that it's available. Sometimes they don't even know it's an option.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Right. And there's lots more to come. Our Grandeur, our new ship, goes on sale next month in September. She comes out in 2023, sister ship to the Explorer and the Splendor. So there's a lot happening, and you know, we count on your support, and we appreciate it, and just look forward to working with you as we return to service.
Love it. Well, you're going to stick around for our next segment because I attempted to make the famous caramel popcorn sundae from Prime 7, which is on board the ships. And I have to, so we don't move into my kitchen, so I have my ice cream in a little cooler here. You guys, typically, those of you that watch the show regularly know that I usually do this, and then we post the segments on YouTube. When I tell you it was such a disaster, I can't even post it. Like I will put myself and throw myself under the bus, but it was bad. So, but the recipe is really delicious. So if you want to cheat, you can, and use some store-bought ingredients. It might work better for you. But I had no idea that caramel was so difficult to make. And I tend to cook everything on high, and I don't think you can do that with caramel because I never got the right consistency. But here's the recipe, you guys. See, it's popcorn and ice cream, which it's like everything. It's like Regent all bundled up in a delicious dessert. It's all inclusive. It's ooey, it's gooey, it's salt, it's sweet. It's just delicious. So you have your chocolate and vanilla ice cream, okay? And then this is the challenging part. You have to make caramel homemade and then douse the popcorn with it. So it's actually really good, although I never got it to be the right color. So you kind of put some of that on your ice cream, okay? Then, okay, so that's what looks, delicious, right? Then you take some chocolate syrup. Now, I don't make homemade. I just throw the Hershey's on. So I have a lot to learn from your chefs. So you throw that on there. Okay, then this is the yummy part. So again, you have to make more caramel, which didn't work for me. So I had to go to the store last night and get more. So I cheated here, but then you put this in a pot and you put whiskey in it. And so I did that with local whiskey, Stranahan's. If you're from Colorado, you know Stranahan's. So then you pour that. I got to get the right angle here because, we don't have a professional kitchen. Woo, right there. So good. And then you top it with some peanuts and chantilly, which is fancy for whipped cream, but I don't love whipped cream, so I always leave that off. So then you put that on. You guys, look how delicious that looks. Now, I'm sure it's much prettier on ship, but there you have it. So again, food takes you to the destination. It takes you to the ship. So if you can't get on board, you can do it at home. So there you have it. And I'll taste it later.
You did great.
I did great. I had to cheat though. I seriously have no idea how to get it.
Of course, on board, we serve it in a big martini glass.
It's funny. I was like, I wonder what they serve this in. And, the last time I got dessert dishes was when I got married 20 years ago. So every single one of them has broken. So it ended up in a little cereal bowl. But, it still takes me to a ship. So that's okay.
Just like you were saying on the first segment, it's National Caramel Popcorn Sundae Day, right, today?
Exactly. You know what? Every day can be a day. We just have to make it one. So, Sean, thank you so much for joining us today. It was a pleasure seeing you again, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
Okay. Thanks, Carolyn. Really enjoyed it. Thanks to everybody.
Take care. You guys, gotta love some food. Yeah, when I tell you it was a disaster in my kitchen, it was a disaster. It really started when I made the caramel and poured the whiskey and it made this big gloop. And it did come out of my pan. So that is not ruined. But up next, please welcome Matt and Virginia Ann from the KHM education team. And I'm like speechless because I really want to try my Sundae here. So this segment is sponsored by Princess Cruise Line, the pioneers in the cruise industry. Discover the world's great destinations with Princess Cruise Line. Hi, guys. While you're discussing European vacations, I'm going to eat my Sundae. Doesn't it look good?
I don't know what happened to my lighting. All of a sudden, I'm red.
You're an Oompa Loompa.
I don't know.
Orange. That's
Wait,
very
I'm
funny.
going to go turn on the overhead light.
So you guys know see, now it's fine. That's funny. Now it's fine. So you guys know in the last year, we have had a ton of agents join, not only KHM, but, when Stephanie Lee was on with Post Agency Reviews, she said across the board, there are more people in joining our industry. So we kind of came up with this idea for a best training series, what's out there for agents so that they can get to know different destinations, just different products. So this week we're getting to know Europe. And VA, I know this is a love of yours. Matt, you just returned. So what are some of your favorite trainings or resources for Europe?
Well,
I'm
for
getting
me,
a little bit of my Sunday.
I wish I was at your house. For me, it all starts with what type of trip it is. I know Matt kind of does this too. We're big on food. And sometime I'll see maybe a festival and I'll think, oh, gee, I wonder what's there. And I'll go and look into the destination and then start looking into, well, do suppliers go there? What type of itineraries do they have there? Shoot, I've even gone in and looked at the hotels and then opened up the map and walked around to see, okay, what kind of restaurants are around there. But
Really?
I guess, oh yeah, I do that all the time. And that's how I know ahead of time, I want to go to this one, and this one. Right, Matt?
Yep.
Clearly, I
But
don't place
I
that much importance on food. Maybe wine, but not food.
I guess one thing that I fall back on a lot are the destination trainings. I've done a couple this past year, one being the Discover Central Europe Specialist course. And that one went into the Czech Republic, Hungary, Poland, and Slovakia. These are countries that maybe you don't know very much about, but a lot of the river cruises visit these countries. So I wanted to learn more about what's there, and if people wanted a pre or a post to enjoy some of the things around that area, what could they go see? Another one, and this was really for myself, I want to go to Switzerland. I mean, I look at the pictures and it's so beautiful that I went in and did the Switzerland specialist training. So that's kind of what drives my training, is where am I going, where my clients want to go, and what type of trip. Is it a river cruise? Is it an ocean cruise? Is it a land package? I may go to Globus and see what they offer as far as itineraries for those countries, because it's real easy to go in and just put in the country and it pulls up all of the packages that touches those countries.
I love that you do that. And it's one of my favorite resources when I don't know how to get around a country. Because if I go to a brochure or an itinerary, it's going to really lay it out for you. Okay, if I don't know Switzerland and it's going to these 3 places in Switzerland, it's really going to give you an outline of, how long does it take to get there? Are they taking a bus or are they taking a train? It's cluing you into a little bit of the information that you're going to be digging for anyways. So it's almost
Right.
an easier place to look than just Googling.
Right. It gives you a lot of the logistics that you're going to need.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Okay, so Matt, I know you wanted to go last on this, so I'll tell everyone what some of my favorites are. I love Rick Steves, and I know that in years past he hasn't been ultra advisor friendly, but we did see him speak last year at ASTA, which I think was huge. I love his books. I love his videos, and he's on PBS every week, always with something different. And so if you need to know like the highlights of a country, or I love him for restaurants, not so much for accommodations, but I love him for restaurants. Great walking tours. If you're trying to figure out like, how to do a country in so many days, there's great resources on his website for that. So again, it's just one of those things that I love to read. I go to the library and get the books, especially if it's someplace that maybe I'm not going to go to myself. I get the books. You can get the videos there. They have the DVDs. I know that's weird to say. I think you can stream them as well from his website. But I love it because it just kind of gives me a little bit more information than maybe I would enjoy reading. And then the other resource that I really like is visitors bureaus. I think they're underestimated sometimes. We forget about the resources that they have. Germany has an amazing one, and I think I get an email once a week on a destination training, and we're not talking like all of Germany, we're talking like just a little snippet of Germany that they're doing a 20-30 minute webinar on. So those are 2 tools that I really love to use when I'm trying to get to know Europe. Matt, what do you love?
Yeah.
I know you have something totally off the wall that VA and I have never ever heard of.
Well, a couple of things. I do want to mention the books. I think the books are great. You do your specialist training. We mentioned last week, my favorite was Hawaii. And so I do those. read your books. I got a couple favorites that are a little different. One's called Eat This. It's everything you should eat in every country around the world, their specialty dishes or their unique
See?
dishes. And so I always look up that to see what is the dish there that I need to try. And then another one I really like that's odd and interesting is they have a website, but they also have a book. I look at the book, but you can go to their website. It's called Atlas Obscura. And that one's more about odd and interesting things to see. I like going off the beaten path or seeing that weird thing. Like, for example, in Florence, they've got the oldest continuously running pharmacy in the world there, and they still use the same recipes that they used 500 years ago for lip balm and salves and all these different things. They've got a, what was it, a gnome museum in Iceland, just these weird different things. So I always look up that, and it's also just kind of fun to send those to your client. But once you kind of read all those books and you've done all the training, my favorite is just, you got to go there, right? Go to the destination. That's my favorite thing. And you can do it alone, or you can set up your own fam. We've talked about that in the past, but you can also go with ASTA. They do these destination expos all the time. I just got back from Croatia, as many of you know, with ASTA. It was a wonderful experience. So I'm going to Savannah in November. I've always wanted to go to Savannah. I've been to Charleston and loved it. And everybody said, oh, if you love Charleston, you got to go to Savannah. And I'm going to do the river cruise with Virginia, and Bill, I think, is going too in March with ASTA in Budapest. And I haven't, I know a lot about river cruising. I've done a lot of the training. I've been on river cruises all over the world, but I don't know, I haven't been on all the ships, so it's just a great experience just to be able to go on the ships, because the ships are a destination too, right? So that's kind of part of the training. So that's my favorite way after I've done all the training, is just to go and experience it for yourself.
I love it. And we should.
That what you're talking about, planning a trip for yourself. I've had trips that I started planning for just John and I that turned into a group, because enthusiasm shows, and people would hear me talk about it, or I'd say, wow, we're going here, and they'd go, wow, we'd like to go there too.
Yeah.
And before you know it, I had 3 or 4 couples going with us.
Well, and sometimes when you're doing something obscure, no one wants to do that on their own, but they'll do it as a group.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's a great point. I've met several travel agents over the years who that's their whole business. All they do is plan where they want to go, and then they get people to come with them. They don't even plan individual trips for people. They just say, oh, I'm just going to plan what I want to do, invite everybody with me, and that's their travel business, which is kind of an awesome idea.
Yes, if you guys remember Mylene Hollick, we're going to give her a shout out here. She was on the show. She was on the Punta Cana fam with me early June, and she came on. She was doing some feedback on the fam, and one of the things she started to do is, as soon as she became an empty nester, she started empty nester trips, and she decides what she wants to do, and then she invites all of her friends who are now empty nesters. And I just thought that was brilliant. You want to go places, bring people with you. You're all in the same boat now without kids at home. And I just thought that was so smart, and such a neat way to deal with this change of life in such a positive way. So we should mention that we'll be live from ASTA in 2 weeks. We have no idea where in the hotel. Hopefully it's not noisy. We have no idea how it's going to go off. I'll figure that out on Monday. But Bill will be there, Marie will be there, VA will be there, a bunch of our agents will be there, Rick's going to be there. So we're hoping to have him and Zane Kirby on as long as we can pull them away from other things for just a few minutes. So thanks, guys, for being here. Those were great tips.
Thank you, Carolyn.
I'm going to finish my Sunday while we talk to David Pritchard, who's going to talk about health and wellness. Oh, you guys, right? Everything in moderation. That's what David's going to tell me. I know that's what he's going to tell me. So the stress of starting a new school year, owning and operating your own travel business is a challenge any day. But recently it has taken a toll on many of us. And it's a pleasure to welcome back David Pritchard, health and wellness expert for Apple Leisure Group, who's going to offer some tips on how we can keep in the best shape possible, both mentally and physically, so we can be the best version of ourselves for our clients, for ourselves, for our husbands, for our families. And so welcome, David.
Great. Thank you so much, Carolyn, for having me and KHM to have us on to talk about such important stuff. But before I begin, I have to say, between your Sunday and them talking about food, the one thing I would recommend is it's a great book. It's called World Traveler by Anthony Bourdain. And I loved his show. His show was so fantastic. And he's got a book about, it illustrates all his spots that he's ever filmed at. And I think there's over 200 different towns and cities and villages around the world. That would be a fun fam. I would definitely go on that one.
That, you know why? If someone really should pick that up as
Right.
a tour, right? Anthony Bourdain's hotspots. Yeah.
Yeah. I've gone to a couple in the US that was in the book, but I've never been out of the country or anything to some of his, he's gone to some pretty interesting off the road type of places. But if you're a foodie, I would have to imagine that would be such an incredible trip.
Mm-hmm. So I will tell you, I consider myself someone who loves good food, but I don't go places specifically for the food.
Right.
One place I will tell you that I was completely food driven was Greece.
Yes.
Everywhere I went, it was, let me try that Greek salad. Let me try that. And that's pretty much all I ate. I don't do the lamb and all the other stuff, but the Greek salad, that's my thing. And every single place we went, I had to have their version because there are different versions.
Yeah.
And to die for. That's the only place where I felt like food really drove me.
Yeah, and it's just unbelievable. My family, my in-laws are from Greece, so my wife is Greek, and so we've been there several times. And I'll tell you, the food, it's just done differently. I mean, it's farmed in the restaurant's probably backyard. The wine is made in the basement. Yeah. You can just taste how much they care about everything that they do. Yep. So it's really a special place. I agree.
Awesome. Okay, so let's talk about, and
Yes.
we should say that your segment is sponsored by Travel Impressions, one of the nation's largest leisure tour operators. So there's your plug. So we have been in kind of this roller coaster for the last year and a half, and I really felt at the beginning of May, June, we were skyrocketing. Everything was going great. And as you know, we talked about in our first segment, we're kind of back in that position where we're customer service, right? We're getting challenged by so many different factors. And so we have to keep ourselves sort of in this positive frame of mind in order to continue what we're doing. So what are your thoughts and what are your tips on how do we keep that motivation up to do a job that we love, even though some days are just straight up challenging?
Right. And listen, I'm so happy that you're bringing this, to the show, because even though we feel like we are moving on, and it is still such a challenging time for anyone who works in the travel industry. It's still the uncertainty, the fear, the anxiety on a daily basis. And as busy as everyone is with bookings, which I'm so happy to hear and listening to your guests and hearing it in the ALG world, there's still just this kind of, uncertainty, right, that we're all standing on. And I think that, one of our core values that we have at ALG is we do it together. And I've really been grabbing to that one a lot. And I know so much about your culture too. And it's like, you're not alone, number one. And we have to, we need to embrace each other in this amazing travel community and lean on each other and connect with each other. No one is by themselves in this. We've all experienced what it feels like to have this uncertainty, to have this fear. Some people are thriving better than others. There's no doubt, right? We know that. So we can all learn from each other. So number one, I would say to everyone out there is make sure you're connecting to colleagues and coworkers and fellow, travel advisors and people in the industry, especially who get it and understand. I know my wife isn't in the travel industry, but so often I'll talk and I know that she understands and she gets it. But when I talk to somebody that's in this industry who understands what we go through, it's like they get us, right? Yeah. And so that's very important, is to make sure you stay connected, right? Stay connected. And then the other thing I would say is make sure you have a purpose each and every day. You know, even if it's not a day that's incredibly busy for you and that you have a list of things to do around work, maybe it's a slower day, that you're staying focused. You're getting up at the same time. You know, if you're not going to the office or you work from home, still get dressed like you normally would. Stay on your routine, because that is what's going to keep you inspired with doing good work, with staying happy, with staying positive, with staying focused. You know, and one of my favorite quotes through all this is, you know, in the storm, the willow tree didn't break, it bent. And, you know, we've been doing so much bending in this industry. And what I'm the most proud of is, yes, it has left us with lots of scars and bruises and bumps, but all of those scars and bumps and bruises tell a story. They tell a story of survival, of thriving. So even though we're in an uncertain time, it was far worse a year and a half ago. We were in a much rougher sea, if I use the cruise expression. Well, you know, right? When we think about how, you know, there's another really good quote that I like to say, you know, strong captains don't get their lessons by calm seas, right? I know it's something like that, but we have all been seasoned. We have learned so much. And the one thing we've learned is that we're not giving up, and we need to do things differently now than we've done them before.
I think that's such an important point, because I think, and I've caught myself doing this, right? I've been doing this for, I think it's almost 14 years in October. And, you know, you kind of are pushing along and you're almost on autopilot, right? So you're not captaining your ship, you're actually like skipper.
Right.
And when we hit a year and a half ago, we all had to stop kind of just like, you know, floating along, doing our thing like we normally did, and become a different kind of captain. And, you know, really kind of right the ship, figure out what we're going to do, and actually help others along the way. And I don't know that there's one advisor out there that at some point within the last year and a half has not had to, you know, kind of throw that lifeboat. Boy, we're throwing the cruise puns around like nobody's business.
Yeah,
throwing
right.
That lifeboat out, you know,
well,
to help someone else and encourage them along the way. And so your point of, you know, don't be afraid to reach out. We're all in this together. We certainly feel that at KHM. I hope others that are listening that might be with different hosts or own their own brick and mortar, you know, have that same support system. I also think it's important to recognize it. So many times when we're going down that rabbit hole, we don't want to recognize it. We just say, no, I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't seek help until, you know, I don't want to say it's too late, but till you're really up against that wall and just feeling crummy.
Yeah, that's such a great point, Carolyn. And I think one of the things as a health coach is self-awareness is the greatest tool we all have in our toolbox, whether it's in our business, our personal relationships, but especially in your well-being. Just like in your business, you know, you can't put your hands over your eyes and say, everything is great, I'm not in the red when you're in the red or whatever, or in the relationships. And with our health, we have to recognize when we need help. I mean, self-awareness allows you to just expose it. I mean, I think if there's anything this last year and a half has done, is said the light is shining bright on mental health, on stress, on the fact that we are okay saying, hey, Carolyn, how you doing today? And you telling me, I'm having I won't say that word, I'm having a stucky day. I'm having a stucky day, yep. Right? And before, it was a badge of honor to say, oh, I am great, I'm awesome. The word awesome, I hate that word awesome, right? You're not doing awesome. Come on. Because the more that we're able to talk and bring it to the table, then the more then people are reaching out to help us. And then the more that maybe we just don't necessarily need the help, but at least we're acknowledging it's not okay. And then we can move on. And that is so important that we have that self-awareness. And then we also embrace our reality and realize that we can't do everything and we can't be every person to everybody. We have to realize what's the realistic things that I can do in my life. I can make this many calls. I can do this type of work. I can go for a walk for 10 minutes. I'm not going to work out for 1 hour. I'm going to try to get another 15 minutes extra of sleep. I'm going to try to drink a little bit more water. Don't try to do too much when things are a little overwhelming like they are right now. Try to just focus on small little things done every day add up to massive results.
Right. Well, and I love that sentiment. And I will tell you, a lot of times when I am running or working out or walking or doing whatever, I've started listening to podcasts and,
Yes.
music and things like that. But I'm sure some of the agents on here today can agree with me that a lot of times throughout the day, we have something in our ears or around our ears, listening to hold music or listening to someone. And I have found that I have to stop. When I go for my walk or my run with my dog or whatever, everything comes out of my ears because it's too much. I'm so used to having something going on and listening to something that when I take those breathers, whereby that used to be calming, it's no longer calming. I have to take all of that noise out, and then I feel centered and focused, which, gosh, 2 years ago, forget it. I wouldn't go anywhere without, some music playing in my ears. Now I
And
have
that's
to
so
take that
great
out.
that you know that. You know that those are the things that you need,
Yep.
and it's so important, especially when times are tough. The only difference between those who quit and those who don't is the establishment of a strong foundation that favors resilience, So learn ways to create like this unstoppable mindset and become better so that you can weather all of those challenges ahead. And I always say, I can leave you with this is courage. We have the most courageous travel industry of people, right? And it's really the ability to walk on faith, really, and go into that unknown and never ever give up and just have gratitude. And gratitude and fear, they can't live together in the same moment. So whenever you're fearful about anything, have gratitude for something. And I always say, and I love this quote, and it was like, if you wake up and there's no sunshine, and it's like my late mother used to always tell me, just go out and make some of your own. And we have that ability, and we're strong, courageous, tough people.
We absolutely do have that ability, and we have the ability to do it for other people as well. So thank you, David, so much. It's such a pleasure. I just think it's so important that, as we're moving along in this business, that we remember to think about ourselves. We're so focused on providing for others that I think a lot of times we get lost. And so I hope everyone here today find that buddy, talk to them, gripe with them. It's okay. Take that walk, stay hydrated, stay healthy. And it's okay to eat a sundae every once in a while as well.
Absolutely. And have a little glass of red wine and
Yes.
sit back and relax and celebrate where you are.
Yep, exactly. David, thank you so much for
Thank
being
you.
here.
Well.
Enjoy safe travels this fall. I'm so happy to hear that travels and trips are picking up for you.
And I look forward to seeing all of you out there. And if you see me at a conference or anywhere, just come up and say hi. Would love to talk to you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Oh, you guys, so much great information. We're so glad that you guys were with us today. Thank you to our show sponsor, Apple Leisure Group, and to all our segment sponsors today. Don't forget to catch us on YouTube or on our podcast. And you guys, next week is National Couples Day. So we have the director of Destination Weddings for Sandals and Beaches Resorts. It is also my 20th anniversary, believe it or not. Crazy that it all lands on one day. So we have a great show in store for you. Be sure to tune in next week. Take care, you guys. Have a great rest of your week.